Now that is a great introduction for my stairway tool. So it's time to cut some serious stairways. Making a circular stairway using the stairway tool. So for this we have to build up the tool, and I already have two main boards in place. The horizontal and the vertical board. You see, there are two separate boards. It makes the tool compact, but also you can change these boards. And that's very important. This increases the options you have with the tool, but for now this is the setup I want to use for making a circular stairway. Once these tools are placed, I need little fences, these little railings. These little railings will determine my starting position, the starting position when it comes to cutting a circular stairway. So I need these two railings, and I need my work surface. Here is where the actual cutting takes place. We put the fence on the work surface and we move this fence along its sides, and when it reaches the corner you pull it. This is the movement which is very important for cutting stairways, regardless if those are the normal stairways or the circular stairways. Okay, let's build the block of foam, and then we find the starting position where we align the work platform using these railings. So here we have the fence, and here I have a wheel. Put the fence aside. Here I have my cylinder block, and this wheel has to be attached to the block of foam. For this I need two screws. And now you see, if you look at the back of the wheel, that the screws stick out quite a bit, which means that the entire length of the screw will go into the foam. If you don't want to, because you want to make cuts that comes as close to the wheel as possible, which will be clearer later on, you can add another ring. This ring, you can place it on the wheel, and now the screws stick out less. But before I screw this wheel onto the block of foam, I have to add a screw that goes bolt, and put the ring on. The wheel will be centered onto the block of foam, and the screws will be fastened up until they resist a bit. There they are. Okay, and now we have a wheel that is attached to the block of foam. Goes onto the large fence. Okay, block of foam attached to the fence. I place it on the platform, and actually I place this fence into the corner. Put it on one of the boards, and first I want to determine the starting position using the little railing that goes in front of the platform. So where to put it? I push the entire platform with the block of foam alongside and a little bit further than the wire, about 1/5 of an inch or 5 millimeters past the wire. So the front is sticking out 5 millimeters, 1/5 of an inch of the wire, and that is my starting position. So I put the fence in. Okay, and this is my starting position seen from the front. Now I have to make a decision where the starting position will be looking from the side. So again, the fence onto the platform, pressed into the corner, so the wire goes into the block of foam and stops just before it reaches the center, and that's exactly what I want, because that determines the shape of the circular stairway I'm about to cut. So with the two railings in place, I have determined the starting position, and I'm ready to make the first cut, and let's do so. Now the temperature of the wire isn't that high. This means the wire really has to work, and work means that when you move your block to the side, your wire will be pushed out of its original position. And that's exactly what I want, because when I start moving to the side up until the end, I then have to start to pull. But before I make that switch, I can make a little pause, because the wire has to get back into its original position. So this gives me the opportunity to clear my mind and prepare for the pulling action. So I go in, wait up until the wire is in its upright position, and then I pull back. Okay, so now that I've made the first cut, before I can make the second, the third, and so on cuts, let's take a quick look at the wheel. The wheel, on the wheel you see a lot of numbers, and you see these little things that stick out. I call them clicks. I can, after every cut, turn the wheel one or more clicks in order to create deeper, larger, or less deeper, less larger steps. And also very important is to know which way you have to turn the wheel. Now for this I made an icon on the platform, and when the platform lies in the position as it's lying now, then you see an icon with a circle and an arrow, which indicates that you have to turn clockwise. I want to make steps that are not too large and not too small, so I go for 3 clicks. I have to rotate the wheel clockwise, so I loosen the screw and go 1, 2, 3 clicks clockwise, and the block is ready for its next cut. However, I want to make the next step, I have to go deeper. So the fence goes 1 step forward, put the platform in place, fence on the platform, and let's go for the second cut. So wait up until the wire is straight again, and then pull, and there is my second step. And now we can go on for the next few steps. Again, I've turned the wheel 3 clicks, the little railing up front 1 step forward, and there we have the next step. So as you can see, I've made a series of steps, and with every step I've made, you see that the stop surface is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Actually, the next step I will cut will actually almost eat away the first step I've made. So with every new step I'm cutting, an old step is disappearing, which is well, useless, and I don't want that. So what we have to do now is, if I go in up until the center, then I pull, and if I normally pull, I would go out somewhere around here. Okay. However, I don't want that, so I will actually, I go in and go up and I go out. So which means that just below the surface of the first step, instead of going all the way up, pulling it out, I will take a turn and go out from the side. So the movement is go in from the side, pull, and go out the same way. Now for this I have another little fence that I can put on my platform. And the position, I have several positions, but I already measured the position. So if I'm not mistaken, and this is all this is very exciting. Let's see if it works. So we go to the next step. Do the same cutting as we did before. Let me see, I still have to turn the wheel. And there we go. So we go in, we pull, and we go out. There we go. Okay. And now we pull up until we reach the final railing or fence, and then we go out on the side. And there you go. Now we can repeat this process up until we hit one of the screws that are in the foam. You see, if the wire isn't that hot, I really have time to adjust my movement with every corner, with every movement I make. And now we are also getting to a point where I might find the screws, that the wire will actually hit one of the screws, and that's the moment I cannot go any further. Well, as you can see, I've made my circular stairway, and there is still one layer of foam left. I cannot go any deeper because then the wire will find the screw, and I don't want to spoil or damage this nice little shape. However, if I would like to make something like this, which are actually 3 parts glued together, then you need another build-up, because if you want to have a higher circular stairway, you need to be able to cut all these little parts out as well, which you cannot, because actually the whole tool itself along with the screws are in the way. But I have a solution for that, so I will briefly show you how to deal with that problem. Our first shape we've made with the stairway tool. What we could not do is we could not cut out these lower parts, and I really would like to cut them out. So now I will make this shape again in a way that I can actually cut out these parts underneath the final stairs of this stairway. So we start off with a fresh block of foam, and now the first thing is we have this little, let's call it a pillar, and since this is made on a circular cutting board, I already have my center pointed out, and that's exactly where I want this little column to go in. Again, up until it resists a bit. Now, this little pillar is now attached to the block of foam by one screw, with one screw, so it's not that solid. So I take a long needle, and in the top ring of this pillar there are tiny holes, and I only have to push in one needle which prevent this pillar from rotating, and now it's much more solid. This little pillar goes onto its own little disc, so it sticks in there. Okay, now we have a pillar on a disc, and this disc goes on the wheel. We've done that. Now this wheel and this pillar, they can rotate, and I don't want them to individually rotate, they have to be aligned. So I take my metal tube and run the tube through the two discs, and now they are aligned and they cannot rotate individually. Put them on the fence. And there you go. I am ready to start cutting. The fence on the side stays the same because nothing changes when it comes to getting into the block of foam. However, the starting point of the front will alter because the length of the block, including the pillar, differs from the first example. So we have to find a new starting point, put in the railing, and we're good to go. Step 1, 3 notches, 3 clicks, clockwise, railing 1 step down, platform forward, second cut. Take your time, no rush. And let's go on up until the point that we bring in the extra railing. Fast forward time. Well, I've come to the point where with the new block where I had to stop with the block I cut previously because the screws that are in the foam. With this new setup, you see that there is only one screw which is in the middle, is in the column of the shape. So actually I can go on cutting, and now I'm still going into the side, but now as you can see I already start to get behind the block of foam because I have a little space here, which means that I can cut can start cutting behind the actual project, and enables me to cut out this area, and that's what I'm going to do now. Well, as you can see, I can skip the whole sideway movement because I'm already behind the block. So I start at the side of the platform, pull and go out to the side. And yet again, another area gone. And the final one. Well, and there you have a perfect circular stairway.